Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Inverted Orthodoxy Podcast. My name is Blake, alongside Pastor Kyle and Pastor Doug, and we are all pastors at Living Springs Church, and we love bringing you this podcast weekly. We take you on adventures and twists and turns about our faith and everything else that you ask questions about. So if you got questions, we got answers.
We'll have something to say.
We have a response. It may not be an answer.
It is worth noting, if you are submitting AER, we are now working towards our summer schedule. And so we are recording multiple episodes at a time. So if you are submitting AER and you're like, hey, those stinkers ignored my AER for a whole week, guess what? We may have recorded 2 episodes back to back. So submit it. We take in every question, every AER. We don't ignore those. So if you haven't heard it yet, it's just a double batch of recordings as we get nearer to vacation schedules and all that. But we want to have an episode out every week. So we'll acknowledge that here and probably a couple more times.
I could see how people be confused about that since you changed shirts in between recordings.
Yes, I did rip my hoodie off because it's getting warm in here. And Doug asked if it was for continuity or for lack of continuity for a different episode. But no, just because it was warm.
Yeah, just Doug and I wear the same thing every week. It's all right.
I wear pretty close to the same thing every week, but not as close as Kyle.
No.
Kyle wears the same thing every
guys
day.
do worry. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes, it's wonderfully liberating to not have to think about what you're going to put on.
Agreed.
I would probably join you guys very willingly.
Come in, the water's warm.
But I have a wife that just dresses me, so that's where I'm at. And I appreciate that very much. I'm all right with that.
Alrighty.
So first question.
If you got AER on that, we'll answer that next week. Or 2 weeks time.
No, it'd be next week. Because this is the second of the
Next
two
week
we're
for
recording.
us, but this episode will air next week, so we won't actually answer it.
Right,
2
but
weeks.
they won't. They don't know when we're recording
right.
this,
Yeah,
so
no,
they
right.
will hear it.
Sorry.
It'll be next week.
Time's confusing.
Oh, that's true. That'll work for them. Any AR on this will work for next week.
There you go.
All right. In church, talking about our church, Living Springs Church, this question came in February 23rd. It says, and since the start of Lent, we have been talking about hunger, both literally and figuratively. Is there anything in the Bible that discusses the issue of excess, specifically in terms of weight and having a relationship with God? I.e., is it sin to be fat, indulge in excess?
I want to recognize that those two are not the same thing.
Correct.
There is indulging in excess, and then there is being overweight. And they are not the same thing, and they're not necessarily always go together. There are people who engage in all kinds of excess that aren't overweight, because not all excess is food.
Yeah.
I think we need to recognize the difference between our world and the world that the Bible was written in 2,000 years ago, when there wasn't nearly the distraction and the entertainment and all of the things that we have available in the 21st century. The Bible regularly uses food as one of the things that focuses on as excess. Even Paul in, I want to say Colossians, but it could be Philippians. One of those 2 books, Paul talks about their God is their stomach.
I have that passage pulled up, Philippians 3:19.
Okay, it is Philippians. Their God is their stomach. Like we hear, and this analogy of food frequently in Scripture. They lived in a world where maybe one of the only indulgences, I guess there'd probably be 2, would be what they could eat and sex.
Yeah.
And so those would have been in that really basic world, the excess that they were most familiar with. That doesn't mean those are the only ones.
Yeah.
You can be given to excess in lots of ways that aren't going to lead to obesity. Yeah. And so I just want to begin by recognizing that those two are not the same thing.
Yeah. I was going to add too, there's probably one more that has some subcategories in the New Testament, which is money. And then specifically when Paul gets into his language around modesty, which we often have been like, oh, girls, don't wear V-cut shirts because modesty. Paul talks about it. It's actually in dressing and adorning with lots of jewelry, which is a sign of excess of wealth.
Yeah. And status.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but I think scripturally I see money as this treated differently, that there's always this idea of it being a dangerous thing, something we got to be careful with.
Yeah.
Food and sex don't have that that qualification over them, right? That food and sex are gifts of God given to people that are good, but that are abused. And so that's why I would say money's got a little bit of a different, in my brain at least, a little bit of a different qualification, although certainly the Bible does warn us against excess with money. 100%.
And that's where I just think of Paul's language around modesty, specifically, like how we quickly take that.
Well, and in 1 Timothy, where he tells people, command those who are to be rich in good deeds.
Yeah.
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 So
So some of that's there. But with that, like I will jump in a little bit with this question and trying to, first fully agree with what Doug's saying. Excess is not always seen. It is often hidden in all these things. So to jump in terms of weight and of food, one also acknowledging the tension because we have space to do so, even though last week in air quotes or last episode we're talking about how you can't always necessarily write the nuance of all these things. Some people who struggle with weight, that is not necessarily something that has come only as a result of their controlled and self-aware overconsumption. There are many medical conditions that lead to that. So recognizing that is not also always equal, one does not always mean the other.
Can I just interject?
Yeah.
Not only that, but last week we talked about systemic things.
Yeah.
Systemic issues in our current culture contribute to that as well. It is far cheaper to buy unhealthy food than healthy food, which leads, especially among poor and underprivileged people, towards obesity because they can't pay for and afford the food that is actually the food that's better for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, you don't know where somebody's at in a journey. Because I think there have been times when I know somebody who has lost significant weight, but they're only partway through their journey. You have no idea where their starting point was too. So all these things come with a whole level of nuance and things to address. With that said, I think there is concern for us to be aware of food as an excess, especially because of these systemic things. It is so easy to give into that, and our culture has pushed us towards it. So with all the grace that we can add to this, back to our language like last one with Hebrews, let's be aware of this. That passage in Philippians, as I read it when I had begun my own health journey and came to that, again, I'm sure I read it multiple times, but to read it there here in Philippians 3:19, their destiny is destruction, their God is their stomach. Whew. And then they glory in their shame. That one hit me hard and still really does. I was trying to be vulnerable with somebody recently around my struggles with food, and I am not trying to. This has been my journey. I have struggled with food and with binge eating and seeking dopamine and entertainment and comfort in food for my whole life. I have had moderate success in working on that idol in my life for the last 7 years. With that said, at points I've tried to share that journey. In day-to-day times, that's one of the things I've reported to our board when I've struggled with overeating and indulging in those things as a sign that I go to it instead of God. There've been times where I've been met. Nobody's ever said it. I can just tell, or maybe it's me reading. So I'll put that out there as a chance to. Because I've lost the weight and I don't hold as much as I once did, or somebody else might. I have felt disqualified in being able to talk about this too. That's where I really want to jump at the level of, you can't always see it too. Like the amount of times that I am thinking about food, I've made myself vomit. I've struggled with those things, with the level of shame over it. But I've watched culturally something shift around this. I'm thankful for it. But I remember like pastors growing up talking about like the pastor's belly. Like that was a pride, a moment of pride. Like, that's what we've all got. Like to steward our bodies is something I have the deep conviction around. For me, I've also just found it's a gateway into all the other disciplines in my life. To submit my exercise and my consumption of food to Jesus allows me so much easier to also do the same with getting up early to pray, to be quicker to bite my tongue, in how I speak to my wife and kids and everybody else. It's the gateway discipline for me. that I think, as I've talked about this in different places, other people seem to resonate with, that there's something there that this allows us to breed discipline in the rest of our lives.
Well, there's something interesting you say that. I just think fasting is a thing in the Bible. Even this question is talking about Lent. And quite often, I don't know why, whether this has always been time, but I feel like in my lifetime, fasting, when I grew up, I very much believed it meant food.
Yep.
Now it's very acceptable in church circles that if you call someone to a fast, well, you could fast anything. You could, right? And I don't think that's right or wrong, but there just seems to be something biblical about fasting food, as you're saying, a gateway to discipline that God probably sees as good for us.
Yep.
But I do think that there's an element where that's a reflection of the time as well, because there are people for whom healthy eating is not an issue at all.
Right. Correct.
Like they just, of course I'm going to eat vegetables. I love vegetables.
Yeah.
I marvel at those people, and I also think there's something a little bit wrong with them. So I do think that there is an element of in our 21st century recognizing that our world has shifted, and that we have all of these other things that we can find comfort and medicate in and medicate ourselves with, and turn. I love how you said that. Turn to instead of to Christ. Mm-hmm. That it may be more fruitful and more necessary to fast from something else besides food.
Yeah.
Because we could be somebody who, like, one of the things that regularly is a thing now is intermittent fasting. And there's people who do it and just love it.
Yeah.
Well, then, not that I'm diminishing that discipline, but it's like, I love this.
Yeah.
It's really the equivalent of me going for a bike ride, right?
Yeah.
I love going for a bike ride.
True.
But for somebody else, that's a tremendous discipline. Yeah. So I think that is a good thing that we've allowed ourselves to see that fasting can be for more just food.
Yeah.
And maybe that just turns my point, makes it better. Doug, I appreciate that fasting then is the beginning of discipline overall.
Yeah.
No matter what you're fasting, it does create a discipline in us that allows us to live a Christian life that is better, right? Because in our culture, we don't say no to anything, right?
I think fasting is part of the process of putting things back in their proper place. Because I have also still really struggle with seeing food as a moral thing. It's either good or bad. And that is not biblically accurate either.
No, it is, like Doug said before, it's a gift from God.
Totally.
Right?
So it's easy for me to read off the pages of the Bible all these calls to fasting and to avoid, and to quickly go there and ignore the passages where God calls us to feast and to enjoy good things as testaments of his kingdom that is coming. And we can quickly make bad something that God has given as gift, which is just as concerning in the New Testament especially. As to avoid something or to overindulge in something. And so both of these, depending where you're at, are going to be counterbalances to what God is saying to you. For those of us that it's easy to just follow this, and I remember watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Captain Holt, if I could just eat beige flavorless smoothies to keep myself healthy, that'd be fine. No, like, enjoy good things. That's why the Old Testament is full of both a call to fast and a call to feast.
Yeah.
We are not to do one or the other. It is to be both, to keep them in balance. So we see, I will submit even my eating habits to God because he is good, and I will realize I'm sustained not by myself, and I will eat of good food and good drink to the glory of God because he's a giver of good gifts. Both of them point to the ultimate giver. Both of them can become idols on their own if we don't have the counterbalance of the other. Yeah. And so I get to speak to the people who relate with me on these struggles, but could quickly also ignore the other side of this. Of no, we receive with gladness in our hearts what Jesus is giving us as a gift.
Yeah.
When Jaden was diagnosed with cancer, as a parent, one of the things you do is you're like, I'll do whatever I need to do to deal with this. And you get a lot of emails and text messages from people with, here's what you should do, and here's what you should do. Right. And there's a lot of diet advice. And we sat down with our oncologist at the Children's Hospital. And I said, okay, so like, here's some of the things we've been told. Like one of the things was just give him vegetables. And like, cancer only grows in alkali or acidity. I can't remember how it goes. Cancer only grows in one of the two. So if you can change his pH balance, you'll kill the cancer. So just feed him vegetables. One was just give him a certain number of lemons a day. Like there were just all kinds of different things. And I always appreciated the response of the oncologist. And he just very gently said, the cancer that your son has is genetic and it's going to grow. And eating is such a sensual thing. And he said, I don't mean that in a sex way. No. But I mean, it's one of the ways that we find fullness in life. And if you think about, I want to go have a wonderful time with friends. Good food is so often a part of that. Yeah. And he said, I appreciate your question. I can appreciate your desire to do what it is that you want to do, everything you can to help your son. He said, but the survival rate is really low. And if it was my son, I would not want to deprive him of the pleasure of eating good food. And everything within balance. Yeah. Right? And I came away with that, and I was like, it was one of those moments, like you're talking about, having a good, wholesome view of food, that I was like, there is a place for the enjoyment of good food. Yeah. The flip side of it is that verse in Philippians. Their God is their stomach. And I think that doesn't just apply to food. I think that applies to every appetite we have. And when does this appetite become the most important thing in my life? And when that appetite, whatever it is, becomes the most important thing in my life, I need to withdraw from it or completely abstain from it until my relationship with it gets back in the right place.
Yeah, totally. And so the language of sin, you can be perfectly fit and have that as your idol and your avoidance of food.
And exercise can be excessive.
Correct.
I've been guilty of that. Not that I have a perfect relationship with food, but I've never had the conviction around it that you have had. But on the flip side, when I was in my mid-40s, or early to mid-40s, I started getting healthy. And I got rebuked by God about caring too much about exercise at times. Yeah.
So those are nothing that we can just see on the outside and decide where somebody's at in sin. And this is back to last week's episode / 30 minutes ago. The I versus the us. Like this is where the Christian community needs to be at. This is where, for me, I want to be vulnerable with people because my struggle might be different than yours, Blake, or you, Doug. Where I have people in my life that will call me on when I'm stepping towards the patterns of sin that nobody else gets to because they don't know what's going on inside my head. You have to know the trajectory I've been on, which means you have to know my life, which means you have to have a relationship with me. Yep. And so this is the reason why so much gray exists in every person's walk with Jesus, because so much is unseen. Yep. It's matters of the heart that, yes, I can wrestle with on my own, but man, is it better if we do them in community.
And I think recognize the validity of every person's struggle. Yep. Because when I've told people like I'm really struggling with like my relationship with exercise because I'm giving too much devotion to it, people are like, you're talking about that's great. Keep it up. Yeah. Right? It's like the person who, one person gets up and is like, I confess that I slept with somebody other than my spouse. People are scandalized. Another person gets up and says, I'm really struggling with pride. And we're like, oh, man, that person's so humble. Yeah. No, they're not. They're struggling with pride.
Yeah, totally. It's the equivalent of the person in the interview. What are your some of your weaknesses? I work too hard and I care too much. Like, we laugh at that, but that's real. Yeah. Like, that's an issue. You do care too much. You do work too hard on these things because you've made the job the idol. Right? And so these are things that you can make a good thing an issue, and you can make, there's so many different ways to see it. So yes and no to your question.
Yeah, so I think the Bible does speak to the issue of excess constantly, and our relationship with everything in our life needs to regularly be examined.
Yep.
All right. Next question then. It says, I understand what it means to love the Lord to love the Lord, my God, with all my heart and all my mind. But what does it mean to love with all my soul?
I'm going to give a very short answer to this. Go to the Bema podcast and listen to episode 21 with all your soul and vary. Their explanation of this is the best one I've ever heard in my life. The Bema podcast, episode 21, so brilliant. that it's like just talking about with all of your everything. That's the word. It's with all of my very. And it's just this idea of giving everything to God.
Yeah. Ditto.
I agree.
To add a little bit more, we make a lot of duality, or would it be triality? Out of
I don't know. You haven't told us how many options there are.
well,
Could be
body, mind, and
quadality.
soul. Well, we split these up as their different categories,
Okay.
Yeah.
and those are very close to false divisions that we've read back into the text with our Platonic dual understanding of the world, or tri-understanding of the world. The closeness by which those things interact with one another in Scripture is far less easily divided than we like to think of them. Like my mind and my heart being separate things. Like, no, there's a you. The language that we get, especially Old Testament for soul, is my nefesh, my throat, is the literal part of it.
Yep.
Because it connects all of you. You don't have any one without the other. You lose the soul. You lose both mind and heart. And these are just words. My heart does not think. My heart does not love. My brain does all of these. That's how that works. I've been teasing with my kids. Your fingers don't feel anything. Your brain feels it all by having nerves that go back and tell your brain to feel it. All of
You're
this
such a good dad, Kyle. Just
language we're reaching.
No, your leg doesn't hurt. You're telling me the
your
wrong
head.
thing.
But these are all things we're reaching for in language, that it's just love with all of you.
Yeah.
And so there's some backing to that of your soul is not a separate part of you. And I think sometimes we've been trained in our world in a post-Greek Platonic way of thinking, when the Jewish way of thinking was much more, there's a you. Different parts of you. And so when we get into the sword, the word of God is like a two-edged sword. Like, the closeness of that is not supposed to be here's the two different parts of you that are so easy, and God just comes in between. Like, that language is stark, because like, you should not be able to understand how close those are to one another. They almost are indivisible. And so that's how sharp God's word is, to be able to divide those things, because they otherwise wouldn't be able to. There's nothing else that can reach that.
Having said all of that,
Yeah.
I just want to assure our listeners that Kyle does have a heart. I'll just leave it there.
Just think it just pumps blood.
Is that worse than being
You
called a
know what
heretic?
people mean when they say heart. They're
I
not
do.
talking about the literal thing that's pumping blood.
Totally.
And you have a heart. I will assure our listeners, Kyle is not a robot.
Thanks, Doug. I mean, thank you, Doug.
Is there I appreciate and totally agree with both of you and everything you've said about this, but is there then opportunity to divide these out? Like, our listener obviously has divided this out for their own sake. Like, they're like, I know what it means to love God with my mind and my heart. What about the soul? Is there a difference? Is there things we can do differently, or does it matter?
Well, this is where Kyle talks about the trichotomic view and the division of things. We have separated it out in a way that I think is not good. Mm-hmm. Like, now I'm loving God with my mind, and now I'm loving God with my heart. Like, I don't think it's meant to be like that. Like, it's just like, just love God with everything. And that's really that Bema podcast
Totally is, yeah.
focus is. And so I understand it's really just using the words to convey the totality of our love for God is how we're supposed to live in this way. We are not. When you get into, I want to talk about Soul Keeping by John Ortberg, where he basically references Dallas Willard. But I first read it in Soul Keeping by John Ortberg. So that's the book I'm going to talk about, where he talks about Willard's view of body, soul, and spirit. And he talks about your soul, and this is the first time I'd ever heard this, your soul being all of you, that you have a body, you have a spirit, you have a mind, you have a heart. Your soul represents the entire part of you. Now, I grew up in this trichotomic view of body, soul, and spirit, 3 separate parts of you. And I was taught in church that was because we're created in God's image. Genesis talks about that. And as God is a Trinity, so are we a Trinity. And so I was like, okay, but when I read John Ortberg's explanation of Dallas Willard's, this idea of your soul being all of you, that's why SOS, save our souls. Like there's this idea of the soul being the entirety of you, that is also this very invisible part of you, that Jesus warns we can lose in our pursuit of other things. And that's really the heart behind the book, which I highly recommend, Soul Keeping by John Ortberg. But it is not, like, how we define these words matters and is going to change our understanding of it. But at its core, the passage is just talking about love God with all you are.
Yeah. I would say, against all the things, not against, in light of all the other things I said, I think the language is here as a gift to see there is balance within parts of us that can encourage us. One of the things I've been praying for the last little bit is I would have a renewal of like my feelings towards God that I once had in encountering him and sensing his presence in ways that I did as like a teenager and young adult. Not that there's anything wrong with
that's heart talk, Kyle.
I know it is. There you go. But I think I would analyze it akin to like a marriage. Like there are moments where Allie and I are loving each other deeply and care for one another, but there's seasons where you just feel it more, and you're lost in that. And so I think that language of like heart or soul, maybe one of those two speaks better to that emotive side. I can be loving God with my devotion and with my mind and learning and paying attention to him and all
Discipline.
those pieces. Right. And so now it's going, okay, but God, I want to feel that too. And I want to be lost in who you are, not just these other things in my devotion to you. And there might be somebody else who just loves to come and sing worship songs and do all those parts. And that's wonderful. Go up and read your Bible.
Yeah.
Memorize some scripture. Like there can be these calls to counterbalance those. That doesn't mean your love is not true. But sometimes for my marriage, it means I also have to do the chores, not just write my wife love poetry and do the things I'm normally supposed to do.
Fair
there
enough.
are balances to this. And so God calls us deeper into the whole of our love for him, where it shouldn't be able, you should almost not be able to tell where one begins and the next ends. But there's a weakness and a propensity towards one or the other for each of us. And so there's times where we lean into that, and there's other times where we lean in the other direction because it's uncomfortable and not necessarily our default love languages would be other language you could reach for in this. Like, how do we choose to love God more wholly? Because of it's not natural to us or it's not where we're at in this season. And so I'm totally comfortable with using that as long as we don't just think they're entirely separate parts of us that I can do one without the other.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yep.
All right. Next question then. I don't know if this has been asked before as I'm a newer listener. What is your personal and biblical opinion on spanking your children? As a newer parent, spankings have never felt right to me. I grew up with Christians quoting Proverbs 13 as a reason why we should spank our children. I've recently heard the argument that sparing the rod is more in the context of a shepherd's rod and not spanking. That we are not to that we are to shepherd our children, teaching and modeling behaviors, correcting, protecting, and disciplining. What are your thoughts?
I want to start with the Proverbs 13 before I get into my own thoughts. Yeah. I think it's okay to say that passage is talking about corporal discipline. That's what it is. That's the world it was written into.
Yeah.
Capital punishment. Yeah.
You're
right. Never mind.
Not capital punishment. We're not killing our children.
Yeah, you're right.
Those are slightly different.
Corporal. I was thinking.
Corporal.
I heard corporate. That's why I was like, what language am I looking for?
Yeah, so we all get together and choose our way.
Totally. Sorry.
So, I think it's the Bible was written in a world and in a time that is different than the world and the time that we live in now. The heart behind in that world's understanding of Proverbs 13, that verse, is that you are going to have corporal punishment for your kids for the sake of discipline.
Yep.
And the newer translations focus more on the discipline end because of a reflection of where our world is today.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to recognize this is the process of exegesis. We have to understand the original intent and the purpose behind it in order to then figure out what it's saying to us today.
Yeah.
And so I want to just begin by saying that the heart behind it is discipline, but that doesn't mean we have to pretend that the Bible doesn't say what the Bible says.
Yeah.
So can we just, I think that sometimes we're afraid to enter into some of the uncomfortable things that the Bible talks about because we don't want to acknowledge that it was written in a very different world than the world we live in. So I just want to say that in that part, personally, I am with you. I don't spank my kids. When our first child was little, we spanked. And after a few times, both Lorelei and I had a conversation. We were like, we don't want to do this. We both grew up as kids who were spanked. One of us spanked much more frequently than the other one because one was more disobedient than the other.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not going to say which one was. But we.
You're gonna have to ask Laura Lee.
Yeah, you can ask her if. Okay, to be honest, I don't know if Laura Lee was ever spanked, but she grew up in a world where spanking happened. Her parents always said she was the perfect child, so I can't say anything. So, because we grew up in that world, we just never we thought, of course, we're going to do that, and we spanked a few times, and then very quickly we're like, I don't feel like this is us. I don't feel like this is what we should do.
Yeah.
I don't feel like this is acceptable. And so we shifted our parenting away from that, which was never something that we questioned until we had done it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Jump in?
I can go next.
Sure.
We did spank our children. We're much more monsters than Doug and Laura Lee are. Especially my wife. No, I'm just kidding. You're so gracious to your wife. I gotta balance it out a little bit. Aaron, if you're watching,
she's not anymore.
Somebody's getting a spank.
Yeah, and we had the same discussions. I guess I can understand. I have no problem with the non-spanking side of the argument or the debate. I understand it fully. We went through it a lot because we have adopted kids. So during foster care seasons, you cannot spank. There's rules. They advise you not to spank. When adopted, we were honest about how we wanted to discipline our kids. So then we got counsel and lots of help with understanding all the reasons you don't beat your children, which are all good. I guess I would say I believe the question is probably much more about discipline than it is spanking, because I think it is choosing your discipline. And some of the best advice that we ever got, we had 5 kids, so we kind of had all different personalities. 2 of them, I believe, are pretty strong-willed. My daughter is crazy strong-willed. We read every book and listened to everything we could listen to on strong-willed children because we were crying and dying inside trying to teach this child how to live. But the best advice I think I heard in all those books and in different ways, but was just you need to pick your discipline, and as a parent, just stick to it. Not overdo it, not underdo it, but it just needs to be consistent. Your kids need to believe that there is consequences for actions and believe that you as a parent will follow through.
Right.
And to me, that really helped us. Right. That we didn't have to swing radically from one discipline to the other or deciding what we're going to do today. It was just no, this child, this is the way we discipline, and it's just consistent. And I felt like it did help us. So that's my little bit of advice to you. I don't know if I answered the question, but
Doug, we like you started because we assumed that world into our start of parenting, and we have a strong-willed first child also. Who the first time we spanked, not only did we feel just sick to our stomach, she also looked back at us that all you got kind of look? This isn't going to work. This is not going to help anything. And so we quickly had a discussion of one, it wasn't going to bring fruit with her because she was just going to toughen up past it. And 2, we just did not feel in that moment right about it. So my theology, funny enough, I think does blend into how we ended up starting to try to bring consequence. And my theology around God's wrath being interconnected to letting us see the fruit of our actions directly to them. And so as creatively as I possibly can, I try to connect, even in language, what our kids were trying to correct into the fruit of what their consequence or my wrath brings about. If you're going to speak rudely to somebody else, you're going to spend time in your room, because what that kind of language towards somebody is going to do, it's going to isolate you. So I'll speak to them about that. If we're going to be ungrateful for things and not clean this part of it, you're going to live in a disaster. So I'm going to try to connect with those things.
So you go make a mess in their room?
And we'll make them go clean the room. We're like, hey, you got to feel the pain now of cleaning up this behavior, of cleaning up the mess of your actions. And so we've tried, to the best of our abilities, to connect the language of what the consequence is to the direct fruit of what would have happened if they continued in that pattern.
Yeah, I like that.
And keep that on. And so for us, my theology does feed into, I don't think violence is going to breed anything other than violence down the road. And so though it can be corrective in a moment, and sure, it taught me my lesson at times, does it, for me, I think, feed deeper anger, even if it doesn't come out as violence? Because for me, and maybe you're just that much holier than me, Blake, I never was able to, in those couple times that we tried, spank without a part of me that was reaching up and going like, I'm getting you. Like there's a corrupt part of me that was corrective in getting my pound of flesh for what my kids had done.
Do you think that's any different though in other corrections? Like that'd be my, I'm not arguing one or the other. I just think that for me, and when I went to those classes that taught non-spanking and everything, that was quite often the argument, is that spanking can just get so abusive so fast. Yeah. And I think other punishments can get pretty abusive too. Like, I don't need to hit you to be manipulative or get my pound of flesh.
Not saying it's not still possible in other ones, but it's always, for me, much less my power over you.
Yeah. I could see how it's easier in physical.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's been a conviction around it. And so I do see and tried my best in my living to hold to that nonviolent position, even in how we correct it and how we parent. Not saying I'm perfect at it, and even like how language comes forward, but try to live that out and be corrective. And like I said, point to God's wrath. Like, I don't think we often talk enough about how God's wrath is organically connected to the sin that we are living out. And what ultimately his wrath will be is just giving us what we want. Mm-hmm. So try to do that correctively with our kids too.
When you talk about your theology shaping your disciplining of your kids, I have had the privilege of parenting two kids through basically to adulthood. Yeah. And now having another much younger kid that I am raising, and having the perspective of what I gained and learned from those first two, shifting and allowing me to take a different path with the other one. Yeah. That's a beautiful privilege. The flip side of it is it has led to a lot of regret and remorse over how I parented the older two, and honest conversations with them where I've expressed some of the things that I've recognized that were wrong. And if there's one thing that I have endeavored to do differently with Leah than I did with my other kids, the phrase that I would use is, I have really endeavored to parent from weakness, not strength. And when you talk about spanking kids, that is parenting from strength. Yeah. And I take that from Christ, who made himself nothing. Yeah. And so when my older kids would say something that hurt, my response was anger, and then punishment. When Leah says something that hurts, I look at her and I say, that hurt me. And I'm honest and I'm vulnerable about the pain that she's causing in my life. Yeah. And I'm honest and vulnerable about the ways that her behavior is affecting me. And I wasn't that way with my older two kids nearly enough.
Yeah, I like
so
that, Doug.
I would, encourage anybody to, if you can find the courage to practice vulnerability with your kids and parent from weakness.
Yeah.
There's no surefire magic bullet to parenting. That's why there's a million books on parenting, because there's no one pattern. And you could parent one kid from weakness, and that kid could just be like, I'm going to take advantage of you.
Yeah, every kid's so different, right?
But
That's
ultimately,
the deal.
my responsibility is parenting, and what I'm going to give answer to Jesus for is my decisions, not theirs.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can give a better account for how I parented from weakness intentionally with Leah than the things I'm going to have to give account for with the anger and the things that were done in anger, the words that were spoken out of hurt in anger back. I feel like there's fewer things I'm going to have to give an account for because I've endeavored intentionally from the beginning to parent from weakness. I also had the opportunity to see that you can parent from strength when your kids are little. And then when they get to a certain point, when they're late teens, where you can't parent from strength anymore, you can be like, you're grounded for the next 6 months. Well, if they're 15, they can just leave and they can go couch surf at a friend's for that month, and you can't do anything about it. So when you parent from strength, it's very effective when they're very little, in the sense that you are going to get the behavior probably that you wanted. I don't know that it's effective in that you're building a trust relationship. I don't think it's effective in some of the long-term ends you want for parenting, because what you want as a parent is to, when your kids are later in life, for them to see you as a coach and a friend and somebody who they can turn to and somebody who's still a resource available to them. And so if you parent from strength, at some point you got to change that strategy. But if you parent from weakness, you can do that for the rest of their lives. And so that's been my phrase that I have intentionally used for myself and reminded myself of regularly for as long as we've been Leah's parents, which has been, I'm going to try my best to be intentional to parent from weakness.
See, this is why I was teasing this morning. This weekend, I get to preach about wisdom. And I'm like, I'm the wrong guy on staff to be preaching about wisdom, because that is a very wise answer, Doug. That's cool. I'm glad you're my friend.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
any other thoughts on spanking kids?
I think just to add to Doug's, like the no silver bullet, the only thing I would say is it's constantly evaluated in that process of what that kid needs and how they will hear it and what the fruit of that change is. Even with, I know my older kids better in their responses than even Blakely would be. Well, she's probably more similar to Levi. There's been times I can remember where Emery and Levi get in some trouble, and I will be a little bit more bold and strong in my language with Emery, because that's how her personality will hear it. And I'll be correcting her, and they'll turn and continue the same language and tone with Levi, and he just crumples.
Yeah.
And so to know your kid and what they need and how they will respond and what brings fruit in their life also is important. So what works just within your household with one kid doesn't guarantee it will work with the next either. And so back to that silver bullet thing of just using wisdom and discernment and raise a child up in the way that they should go is different than the next one. And they should go. Discipline's a part of that. And so yes, this call to discipline, but also seeing that kid, and fruitfulness is the end, not punishment. Consequence is the means towards the end of developing a person into who God wants them to be.
I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for us, and I assume for most parents, the realization of how much effort it takes to discipline children is hard. Like, it just, man, I think I used to say that to Aaron often. I'm like, to think about what is right for this child, to think about what is good to correct the behavior if that's what's needed at this time, to think of being in a place of weakness. Like, it just, I understand lack of discipline in my own life with my own kids and other people's lives, because it's just way easier. Like, you see the kid do the thing for the 13th time today, and you're just like, I'll just pretend I didn't see that. Because the effort is going to take to, call them out, to correct it, to whatever else takes a lot. Like I understand that. So I pray for parents a lot, all the time, because it's just parenting is tough.
I've shared on this podcast before my definition of love, which is to freely, joyfully, sacrificially seek the best interest of the other with no expectation of return. And that definition is one that I came up with through my kids' teenage years, specifically in the context of discipline, specifically in the context of wrestling through how do I deal with a kid who's going wayward and making decisions that I really disagree with. And sometimes, like you say, persisting in those. And we would talk to people and we'd say, what should we do? And they would say, just love them, just love them, just love them. And Lorley and I would say,
what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
And so I ended up spending a lot of time sitting and trying to figure out what is love. And that was the definition that I've come up with. And when I'm doing that, then what that means, if I'm parenting from love, is sometimes what I want is there to be punishment, and what is in their best interest is mercy. And so I need to do what is merciful. Sometimes what I want is to be merciful, but what's in their best interest is discipline. And so I need to be disciplined. So I've tried to remember, what I cannot function from my emotions. My job as a parent is to differentiate, to borrow a word from the book we're reading in our staff meetings, and to be able to try to look at this situation and say, what is in my child's best interest in this moment, and then find the courage and the grace to do that thing well.
Absolutely.
That's
Cool.
our time.
I was going to say, I think we're probably getting up against time, so we will we'll say goodbye to you guys for this week. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Inverted Orthodoxy Podcast, and check out our website, invertedorthodoxy.com, where you can submit all your questions that we love answering, or give us some AER if you like that too. Rate and review us wherever you find us. That helps other people find us as well. We will talk to you guys next week.